Всем добрый день! Сегодня у нас в гостях потрясающий специалист, это преподаватель, основатель Академии THIRST4Function, остеопат Вилкес. Мы очень рады приветствовать его в Казани, он приехал к нам с 2 семинарами, и сегодня мы зададим ему пару вопросов. Good day, Chris. It's really nice to see you in Kazan.
Yeah, good to be here. Thank you.
I know that you're an osteopath. Could you tell us about osteopathy a bit and how did you become osteopath?
Yeah, sure. So my journey started before I became a movement professional. I was playing rugby, and as most rugby players, I experienced some injuries, and so I was trying to work out how I could recover more effectively from those injuries and get back to playing. So I first began as a trainer, working in a gym, one-on-one and in groups, and I found I enjoyed working with those clients who had some injuries and were also, like me, trying to get back to fitness. And that led me to study osteopathy, which is, in the UK, system of manual medicine that allows you to understand how the body is functioning. And I learned a lot of passive manipulation and mobilization skills with that, and a lot of useful information about diagnosing different injuries. But really, it was trying to combine that with movement that really kind of sparked my interest.
But how actually you come with the idea to combine movement and osteopathy, which is kind of passive?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of talk about movement in osteopathy, but as you said, it's traditionally a little bit more about passive movement being done by the therapist with the client. And because of my background in exercise, I felt like it was useful to be able to have the person being active. I met a colleague of mine at the university while I was studying, who was an Australian osteopath, who was also very interested in combining active movements with osteopathy. And while we were exploring those ideas, we studied with the Gray Institute in the USA, and that really was a great influence on my practice. They have a lot of strategies that are active and allow us to look at movement in real life activities, daily activities. And so, yeah, the blending together of those ideas has really been the most influential thing on my career so far.
So interesting. And here you're talking about the 3D motion, three dimensions. What does it mean actually?
Yeah, good question. So I think it can mean a lot of different things, but for me, one of the key elements is it's a really good reminder that when we're moving as human beings, we don't move in isolation in one plane at a time. We're always moving in sagittal, frontal and transverse, all at the same time. So I use it as a little bit of a reminder that if I'm assessing someone moving, I shouldn't just be focused on maybe the plane that I see most obviously. I should be thinking about how that movement is occurring in all 3 planes, and it gives me a way of sort of increasing my ability to assess those and then also treat and train those in different ways. Yeah.
It's nice. But what about your personal practice? What do you do to stay fit, to keep your shape?
Yeah. Well, for me, I think from learning a little bit more about how our bodies function and move and get injured or stay healthy, the thing I try to do the most is keep a variety of things. So I haven't, since I stopped playing rugby, I haven't focused on one particular activity. I've tried to mix it up. So I really enjoy cycling. I like to do some bouldering and climbing. I like to do some hiking, a little bit of running, swimming, and really try to do a variety of things so that my body gets moved in lots of different ways rather than doing one particular thing and becoming good at that, but maybe losing the ability to do other things. It seems to keep me fairly healthy, although I'm sure, as always, we can always improve. There's always things I'd like to be able to do a little bit better or a little bit more effectively. So.
But you're really active, it's really cool.
Yeah.
And now you're in Kazan, it's first time in Kazan.
Yeah.
So what do you feel about it?
I've had a great time. It's been really nice. The people have welcomed me so. It's been so warm and hospitable. It's been a really enjoyable experience, and yeah, I've been lucky enough to try some of the local cuisine, some of the delicious foods, and also have a tour around the city and have a look at the Kremlin. And yeah, so yeah, really enjoying it. and obviously coming here and spending time at the Prime Pilates studio.
Yeah, what's about our studio
Yeah.
and our Ainas, our head of the studio?
Yeah, fantastic. So I really appreciate being invited here by Ines and meeting her team and seeing the studio. It's a great environment to work in, and I think it seems like there's a really nice atmosphere amongst the staff. They have, you know, really good interaction and a real desire to learn and improve what they're doing, which for me, coming in to teach, that's just a pleasure, because you can see the enthusiasm and the skills that they already have that I can just guide in some different ways, but really building on what they already do so well. So.
Thank you so much. And my last question will be, can you give some piece of advice for the young movement specialists, for those who just start to study movement, to learn how we move, what we do? What can you advise them?
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good question. It's always interesting looking back on your own development and seeing what did I do that was useful and what would I do differently. I think the piece of advice I think is most useful is to be, I think, curious and critical of what you hear from other people. So always go in with an open mind and willing to learn from different people, but also don't be too trusting of that being the only answer. Try to be a little bit critical and ask questions and do your own research, because that keeps you kind of progressing and not just focusing on one person's idea or one piece of information. So explore lots of ideas, but be a little bit skeptical and critical of each one.
Thank you so much, Chris. And we'll wait you again in March with your new seminar.
Yep.
And thank you so much for the interview. It's been a big pleasure for me, and we will see you again.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm looking forward to coming back.